Welcome back to Structured Product Management Thinking. My name is Kurt Van Etten, and in this module we are going to transition into the problem space and talk about discovery planning. All right, so ready to start our discovery planning. At this point, you should have a good understanding of your industry, your customers, your competitors, and your own company. And you probably already are feeling pretty good about, hey, there's some problems out here that I think we can solve, but we need to go out and test those. So why do we need to plan? We need to plan for discovery because it's very difficult. People have tried many ways over the years to try to work with customers, to identify their problems, to prioritize them, and gather requirements. And you've probably participated already in many of these methods, probably participated in focus groups or user groups. You've probably done some conjoint analysis. You've worked on the product and done beta testing and A/B testing, etc. What we're going to use in the Structured Product Management Framework is we're going to first start by forming some hypothesis around the jobs to be done. We're going to spend some time and think about how to identify the participants. We're going to plan how we're going to conduct our tests and test these hypotheses. And then we're going to socialize these plans and get feedback from our larger group. So the good news here is product is a team sport. You don't need to go this alone at all. In fact, you've already talked to a number of stakeholders in your ecosystem analysis phase. You've talked to salespeople, and you've talked to finance, and you've talked to marketing and product marketing all as well. And every good product team, should have a robust team roster. What I've used in my career is really two sets of teams. We have an inner team shown here in green that's often referred to as a scrum team or a pod team, which is primarily your execution team, your product manager, your engineering, your data science, your QA, user experience, tech writers, scrum master, etc. But you also need to identify all those supporting people that are going to help you, especially if they're customer facing, like customer support, customer success, product marketing, professional services, engineering, and sales. And it's definitely a best practice that you try to get these representatives by name so that they understand that you're associated with your team. When we go into the execution phase, we'll get in a little more detail about the role of these people. But for the discovery phase, your team should be roughly 3 or 4 people. It should be the product manager. It's absolutely critical that you have a representative from user experience. You should have an engineering rep as well. And in this day and age, more than likely, you're going to need a data scientist, depending on the project and depending on your industry or vertical, and depending on what industry you're in. Maybe there's one other person that you want to participate as well, but you want to keep it, small to 3 or 4 people. So I've mentioned jobs to be done several times throughout the course so far. So I want to take a pause here and go a little bit deeper into the concept and make sure people have a solid understanding. So what is a job to be done? So job to be done is a statement that describes what a group of people are trying to achieve or accomplish in a given situation. So we can think about jobs as consumer jobs, like I need to pay somebody back or prepare a quick healthy meal for my family. We can also talk about enterprise jobs, like as a risk manager, I need to pass compliance, or I need to ensure seamless communication between remote teams. So jobs are just simply tasks that need to be done, stated in a very specific manner. There's also 3 categories of jobs. When most people talk about jobs to be done, they're talking about functional jobs, such as travelers need to purchase an international airline flight online, sales associates need to prepare for a customer meeting. But there's also other aspects like social, like I need to network with my industry peers, or I need to hold neighborhood meetings so I'm seen as and perceived as a leader. And there's emotional jobs, like I want to feel smart, or I want to reduce anxiety while public speaking. So the reality is, for most functional jobs, there's actually aspects of emotion and social as well. So let's take our first one of, I want to prepare a quick, healthy meal for my family. I'm a parent. I'm busy. I need to cook dinner in another 30 minutes and need to get the kids off to their practice and extracurricular activities. But there's an emotional aspect of this. I want to feel proud of providing a nutritious meal to my kids. I want to feel good about myself as a parent, and I didn't slap fried chicken and burgers on their plates for the 4th time this week. And there's a social aspect. I want to be seen as a caring and responsible person, whether that's within the family or broader relatives as well, that everyone knows that while you're a great parent, you always feed your kid nutritious food. Of course, the same can be stated for enterprise jobs as well. So if the functional job is I need to ensure seamless communication between remote teams, there's a functional aspect, and maybe I need to provide reliable tools for video calls. There's an emotional aspect, and I want to feel confident that we're managing the distributed teams and everyone can get their work done well. And there's a social aspect. I want to be perceived as being tech savvy and a proactive leader throughout my organization. So you want to take these jobs and list them out. You've probably already have some inkling of where some opportunities are that you need to dig a bit deeper. So list all those out. And then you really need to think about who are the participants that you want to go after. Who are the people that are doing these jobs that you just listed? And what segments do you need to participate? What kind of representation do you need to do in this study? And this brings us to one of my favorite mantras that I call, Who is Sean? And so what's the origin of this mantra? The origin of this mantra was I was working with a newly minted product manager. She was doing some initial research. I walked by her cube and she said, "Hey, Kurt, I just talked to Sean and I just wanted to run this by you." And I said, "Great." I said, "Before we get started, I want to know, who is Sean?" And she looked at me funny and said, "Well, you know who Sean is. You worked with him for 5 years." And I said, "I know exactly who Sean is. I want to know if you know who Sean is." And she's like, "Yeah, I just talked to him. I don't get it." And I said, "Rajmi, Sean is a power user. In fact, Sean is probably the biggest power user of our product on the planet. He's brilliant. He knows every aspect of this very complicated software better than anyone." And so you need to understand that when you're talking to him. And so what you're about to tell me may be a great idea, it may be a bad idea, but before you even start, you need to understand that I'm talking to a power user and the feedback that he gives me may only be relevant for power users. It may be relevant to new users as well, but you want to know who you're talking to before the conversation begins. And this is super relevant to what we're talking about right now, is understanding who you want to talk to and what segments that you want to represent. So, reviewing our segmentation, maybe you want to take a look at your segmentation demographically, women over 40 or households that make over $75,000 a year. Or maybe you want to look at experience levels and you want to only look at new users or power users, or you want to mix. Or you want to look at firmographic data and look at companies, people that are in companies under 100 employees or government employees. Or maybe you want to do geographically and you want representation from the Nordics, or you want some representation from South America. So you have to think through this before you actually go into the study and plan for, hey, what kind of participants do I want, and is there segment representation of the job to be done? So now we're going to put a research planning document together, and we're going to keep it very simple. We're going to state the purpose of this document. We're going to give some background, some context. We're going to list our job to be done hypothesis. We want to list any assumptions that we're making going into the research, and we're going to outline what kind of research we're going to use, what kind of method we're going to use, what's the timeline associated with that. For example, validating top problems for advanced users. And then you want to have a section of ask for other teams. If you need help from other people in your organization, you want to put it in this document. And you're going to take that document and then you're going to socialize it very broadly before you actually begin your research. So here's an example of a research document. In my mind, it should be one at the most 2 pages. The best practice would be to take that document, put it on a shared drive, allow people to comment on it, and I'll leave it up to you whether you think you need to have a meeting or not, but it's something that certainly can be done asynchronously. So here's some example. Purpose of the document. The purpose of this document is to solicit feedback. This is really important to put right up front and on a proposed research plan. This is a proposal because you're asking for feedback to align getting new logos in the healthcare vertical. All right, so you're hopefully are aligning this to your OKRs that we talked about earlier. Give any background or context. Here's some initial research that you've done in that ecosystem analysis phase. You say, hey, we looked at the win-loss records, we looked at the RFEs. Here's our job to be done hypothesis. Healthcare providers and patients need a way to securely communicate with patients and other medical professionals, ensuring privacy and meeting compliance requirements. Very clear what the job is that you're going to research, and there may be a second one that medical labs need to inform healthcare providers of critical test results. List your assumptions. Your assumption here is you're making a bet that you think that security, privacy, and collaboration is a major pain point in the industry for both providers and patients, and if we solve this, it'll be a major differentiation in the market. Notice there was no specific solution stated there. Research, method of research timeline. You're going to do a qualitative phase, you're going to do some interviews, and then you're going to follow it up and get a survey, and then any specific asks. So here, I'm going to ask sales to help me find 6 customers to do the interviews with for the qualitative phase. And I'm going to ask product marketing to see if I can get on the agenda for the next customer advisory board because I want to interview some of them as well. And as we stated previously, it's always better to have a plan and adjust from that plan than to have no plan at all. So you should definitely have an attachment that outlines what your project plan is. Here we're saying we have a qualitative preparation phase, then we have a quantitative preparation phase, and then we're going to publish the results and have the outcome of identifying our top problems. This is a great document to socialize because people can see, okay, who's participating in this research, what's the start date, what's the end date, when can they expect to see results. This is such a simple thing that's very powerful that you can do. It really informs everyone in the organization what you're working on, how are you thinking about it, and that you're also being very collaborative and getting feedback before you go too far down the path. So the best practices, list your hypothesis and jobs to be done. Think about the job to be done, the user, and the circumstance. When you're identifying participants, know who Sean is, know who is it that you want to talk to, and make sure that is the people that you want to talk to, and you're getting the right representation from your different segments. Socialize your thoughts to date and get feedback. Send it out as a proposal. Do it asynchronously. It works very well. And then, of course, create a project plan. The anti-patterns. Number 1, anchored on the current product. I'm really going to get on my soapbox here. I've seen this quite often that most junior product managers, they get assigned to a product, and so the first thing they want to do is sit down with existing users and walk through the existing product and ask them, hey, where's your pain points? Where's your friction in the current product? This is really limiting your scope, and it's also limiting your range for innovation. You want to take a step back of this. You're in the problem space. You're not in the solution space. So take a step back and really put that product to the side and ask them, what is their job? What are their things to do? And what are the problems with the current job that they have? Having no clear hypothesis is certainly anti-pattern. Having a hypothesis of a solution is a huge anti-pattern. Again, jumping to the solution space too quickly. I've seen people say, well, my hypothesis is that if I build a new feature that leverages AI to help people find international airline flights, we're going to grow revenue by 20%. In my mind, that is a huge anti-pattern. Again, you're jumping to the solution space prematurely. Not segmenting and vetting your participants, and having no project plan. Okay, so at this conclusion of this activity, you should have your project plan all set. You're ready to go. You're identifying your participants. And in the next module, we're going to talk about how to do that research, and in particular, how to conduct these interviews in a way that's going to help identify the jobs to be done and the outcomes, the functional job, the emotional job, the social job, etc. And I really look forward to seeing you in the next module. As always, please like, subscribe, leave comments. All feedback's a gift, and see you on the other side. Thank you.